Hello everybody and welcome back to another video from HSTV, and in today's video, as you can see by the video title, I'm going to be sharing how you can take your note-taking to the next level. Now I know that we all have a different style of how we understand and how we take in information and how we note it down, but in my opinion, a good note is one that is aesthetically pleasing as well as being useful with all the key information that you need. Now, of course, you may disagree with my style. However, I think over the past few years at medical school, I've really grown to using some techniques that I hope to share today. Now, what am I going to be sharing this on? Well, I'm going to be using our trusted Samsung Tab S7 Plus, and I will be using Samsung Notes as my app. If you would like to see more videos on the Samsung Tab S7 Plus, go and check out that playlist, and also let me know if you want to see something else. And yeah, let's get into it. So in order for me to really tell you my techniques and my tips on how you can improve your note-taking style, I think it's important to use some examples to put things in perspective. One of my favorite notes that I took last year actually was this one here on ECGs. Now keep in mind, you don't have to be a medical student to watch this video, but it's just easier for me to explain things put through a perspective. Now the tip that I'm going to give you, one of the most important tips that I've noticed in this note, is color coordination. Colors are so important when note-taking, especially when you're making summary notes. This is a summary note on ECGs. Now, if you've studied ECGs, you'll know that they're a complicated part of the medical course. You'll know that these lecture slides are, somewhere between 60, 80, 90 lecture slides all put together. So I've tried to condense the material that I needed to know for this exam into like 4 pages. And one of the things that make this really pop is the color, and you can see that instantly. And the reason color is important is I don't want there to be just a ton of white text that I'm having to work really hard to understand, because that's where textbooks and lecture slides come in. The point of this is supposed to be, I look at this and I know exactly where to follow what. Now, what I've done here, you can see, is every single subheading has its own color, like so, and then I've tried to make links here. So when I'm talking about how an ECG works, I'm talking about electrodes on a patient, and that clicks in my mind. Okay, if I want to know more about electrodes on the patient, then I can come down here and look at this diagram. Now again, we'll talk more about diagrams as well, but here I've just imported a diagram, and then I've just went in and put some of my own touches into it. Again, here when we're talking about ECG morphology and calibration, I think that those two topics are linked, so I've put them both in pink, joined them with an arrow, and then you know that they're related. Okay, this is a really lovely example, I think, when it comes to waveforms and intervals. So this ECG wave, this complex, it may just seem like a wave, but every part of this wave and this complex has its own features to it. And what I've done is I've gone out and highlighted each of the segments, labeled them, and then color coordinated. I've put more information at the side. So this PR interval here, we've got more information about it here. So that's a really nice example, I think. Another really one, the good one that I think worked out quite nicely was this one here, when I was talking about different types of fast heart rate. So we've got narrow complex and broad complex tachycardias, which I've labeled in yellow and orange. And you can see here when we go through some examples, I've got the yellow ones, which are all narrow, and the broad ones in orange. So that's just an example of how color coordination can really bring things to your attention quickly and easily for you to grasp. Okay, I want to use this next example on infectious diseases to talk a bit about pictures and how it's so important and really useful to import pictures into your notes, because sometimes it's fine to condense down text like I have done here from the lecture slides. However, sometimes when you have tables and just kind of straight up definitions, it's not efficient to just copy things from your lecture slides. Unless you can add something or you can condense something down or summarize it better in your own words, there's no point just copying off of the slides. Now here you can see when we're talking about functional classifications, I've got the different types of organisms here. And this is just a simple table. I don't think that this table can be condensed down any further. I don't think there's anything that I could personally add to this. So all I've done is I've taken a snapshot of this and I've imported it into my notes. Again, over here, when we're talking about host defense systems, I've labeled it in, I've got adaptive, physical, chemical, cellular. However, the actual tables, to be honest with you, I don't think that there's much more I could add to this. I quite like this as a note, and I think that I can just directly put this into my notes, and it works out well. And again, with failure, I've got the different things that could happen as well, and I've just imported the picture in. Now here, this is again directly from my lecture slides. Now this could have been simplified further, I think, but in the interest of time, remember when you're taking your notes to the next level, this is not only about how you can make it look more pretty, this is about time efficiency as well. And in this case, I probably just didn't have enough time to, put this all in my own words. And so what I did is I linked things with some color coordination. I put down the headings, so it's just a bit easier in my mind to follow with the arrows. And then I've just sort of taken screenshots from my lecture slides and put them in like so. Okay, another really important tip, I'm going to use the example of embryology here because I think embryology is a really difficult area to visualize, I think. So over here you can see I have drawn this whole diagram going from your epiblast stage all the way to when the layers start forming. Now, all of this is a really simple diagram just with these circles that you can see. However, if you follow the arrows through and you follow the color coordination, it becomes easy to understand. And because I've drawn it, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm quite a visual kinesthetic type learner. So I like drawing, I like handwriting, I like visuals. So I try to draw in my notes where possible. Even if it's this little stupid stick man that I'm using to try and direct me to the right planes, it's important to draw. So I would highly recommend that where you can, especially if it's a difficult concept, to just draw diagrams and make use of arrows. Arrows are one of the most important tools that you can have when you're note taking, and try to condense down text. So stick to bullet points rather than saying therefore this is, put an equal sign. I put plus signs in, and yeah, just kind of condense things down, make the links where you can, and you'll see that this actually comes out to be quite a nice diagram to follow, especially when I'm looking back on it. Okay, and one of the last tips that I'll give, again, this is just something that works for me, is mind maps. I cannot emphasize enough how important mind maps are in terms of summarizing your notes and putting things in a format where you'll be able to look back and really understand what's going on. Now, mind map, this is great because it's almost like you can do it to how your brain works. So for me, I need to know what lipids are, then I'm going to talk about lipoproteins, then I'm going to talk about cardiovascular disease, and then I'm going to talk about prevention and treatment. So in my mind, this lipids and CV disease topic, it goes round in a clockwise direction like this. But for you, your brain might work totally differently, and you might have something coming out here, something up here, something down here, something down here. So this is like you putting what's in your brain down on paper. Now, again, you can see the use of arrows and the use of color. It's everywhere. And again, the use of pictures as well. Please always use pictures, they're great. So you can see that sometimes a portrait note does work well, like the example that I've been showing you previously. But in a lot of cases, mind maps are also brilliant. And again, they're very easy to create on Samsung Notes. This is what I would recommend, but honestly, there's a lot of great note-taking apps out there that you can use to do this sort of thing as well. The use of pictures and the use of drawings and things, it just adds really a lot of depth to your notes. And in a mind map format, everything is laid out really nicely so that when you come back to it, it's going to make sense to you. So I'd highly recommend that you make mind maps for topics. Alright everybody, well that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you found this useful and you can incorporate some of these techniques into your own note taking. Let me know what sort of things you guys do down in the comments. Feel free to share, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.